Well, Jessica, it is delightful to have you on Sales Mastery. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we've had some wonderful conversation beforehand, but I'm always fascinated by somebody who jumps out of corporate, or maybe not jump, but leaves corporate to build their own life. And I was hoping you would be willing to share some of that with our listeners, because I am certain there are folks who are thinking about or maybe have made the leap and feeling a little unsteady right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my background was in business. I actually managed multiple companies, and I eventually built a startup corporate company here in San Diego. And even though I loved the company, I loved what I did. I think a lot of people in a corporate job can relate that some part of me was not fulfilled. I definitely felt like the longing for something more, that I wasn't living on purpose. I had a vision of also doing travel and really just having more freedom in my life. And, very stressed out, working long hours and not being the healthiest version of myself. And all that kind of came to a head where, I was really on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and I had actually gone on vacation in Thailand. And that's when I made the decision to, roll the dice, walk away from my company, literally sell everything I owned and take 13 pounds on my back. And I did. I came home. I didn't discuss it really with anyone, which was its own journey in and of itself. In terms of my family or friends, I didn't survey them for their input, because they would have talked me out of it for sure. And then I bought that one-way ticket, and I spent about 4 years traveling the world and really diving deep into personal development work, yoga, meditation. And living this very fun traveler nomad type lifestyle. I came back to San Diego, and I actually got pregnant with my daughter, and became an expectant single mom. Her father's not in the picture. So at that point, obviously I didn't want to live the nomadic lifestyle that didn't align with creating stability for my daughter. And I didn't want to go back and get a job, because I've already done that. I knew that driving to an office and sitting under fluorescent lights, sitting in meetings all day, having someone say, you get 2 weeks of vacation a year, and this is the money you're going to make except for your incremental raise, and all of those things, that I already knew wasn't going to fit. And then couple that with now having a child who's sick, and kids get sick, and it's very demanding on the mother. And so my choice was clear. It wasn't even a choice, because I was not going to go back and get a job. And so that's when I made the decision to start my own consulting business, and started at rock bottom, some of the hardest years of my life as a mom, trying to grow a business and raise a child on my own, and built it now to a very successful international consulting and education training company.
Wow. There's one thing that you're saying, you went into, as you were stepping away from corporate, you did a lot of personal development work. How did that prepare you for what you eventually were going to be making the choices for, creating your own business?
I think it's a lot. I mean, we're kind of fed this narrative, like grow up, go to college, get a job, work your way up the ranks. And the personal development allowed me to do the inner work and to trust that voice within, because even though when I made that leap, I knew I was going to be okay. I knew I was going to be fine, and everything would unfold perfectly, and my life would work out well, and all of that. So that personal development journey really aided me in trusting and knowing, like, look, no matter where I go, I can make money. No matter where I go, I'm going to meet amazing people and have fantastic experiences. I don't have to succumb to the mainstream narrative of this is what your life has to look like. You truly can create it on your terms. And those travels validated all of that, because I saw many people from all walks of life. I was one of the first digital nomads in that sense, before the term was popularized, that was working, from a laptop overseas. So, seeing people live that, seeing families live that, seeing other parents really encourage their children to be global citizens, like all of that just reinforced the kind of life that I wanted to provide for my daughter. And I joke and say that she's the most well-traveled 5-year-old I know, because I've taken her all over the world. And that would not have been possible if I hadn't experienced it, trusted that I could do it, and said, no, I'm not going to settle for, this framework of what your life is supposed to look like when you're in the corporate world.
Yeah, I love the entrepreneurial lifestyle. It can be hard at times. And
Sure.
it can be like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But on the other hand, our income, if we're willing to do what we need to, which was what we're going to get into here, because you talk to people about how to get high paying clients. So we're not just talking about working your tail off for just a little bit of money, just enough to exist with, or maybe even not that much after you're done paying all of the bills associated with business. But really, just that there's that longing. We can still create our own life. We can still create our own income. We are not stuck with whatever the boss says, because we don't have to have just one boss. We have a lot of people we can serve. So let's dive into how you came to this business, how you saw the need. What you saw was the need for people in terms of creating a high profile client and getting that client.
Well, I think my journey is what inspired me to focus on helping others, because I went down the same route that many people do, which was undercharging, not owning my worth, billing by the hour, submitting timesheets, trading time for dollars. I didn't know any better. And honestly, my self-worth wasn't where it needed to be for me to be able to step into claiming a lot more money.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was, it makes sense, because the people that struggle the most with raising their prices, which is something I really work with people on, is women, not men. And women are also the ones that are typically underpaid, paid less than men, but also not just because of some unfairness, but because they don't own it and ask for it and demand it. So when you come out of corporate and you have those patterns, those beliefs, and oftentimes women try to translate that into a coaching or consulting business, they carry that with them. And those same patterns now only to their clients. And so I was doing the same thing. And by the way, some of my clients were women that were paying me pennies at the time,
Mm-hmm.
And one day I had a big aha moment when my client, who wasn't paying me very much, hired an outside coach and paid him $5,000 to solve one problem.
Oh,
And
wow.
I had an aha, an epiphany. I said, if I don't own and see my value, no one else is going to own it for me. No one's going to say, oh, let me pay you more money,
No, they don't.
And they don't. And that was a huge breakthrough for me, because I allowed that story of this is what they can afford and what they're willing to pay. And then suddenly money came out of nowhere to pay for something else. But it was me. I'm not a victim. It was me not saying, this is my worth. I see my value and this is what I charge for it. And you can pay it or someone else will. So that journey really got me on the path of shifting towards high ticket, going through the fears, overcoming the limiting beliefs that people weren't going to pay me more, and all of those, breaking through those things with a coach. And ultimately, that led me to helping my clients facilitate the same experience in their life.
Wow. I love, I think a lot of women especially struggle with that issue. And I had a real estate mentor at one time, and he said, you know why you're not making a lot of money, Anna? And I go, why? And he said exactly what you said. He said, I don't understand it, but women do not value themselves the way men do. And he said, that really needs to change. So that's an amazing thing that happened for you. Now, I know that you do the ocean to pond. There's ocean to pond. And for our listeners, I just have to tell you, when she first mentioned it to me, I thought she meant ocean to pond, P-A-W. And I thought, oh, this will be really interesting to unpack. But it's ocean to pond, P-O-N-D. And this is really a big key to finding those high value clients. So could you go into more detail about that, Jessica?
Yeah, absolutely. So, In order to build a really scalable, profitable business, we've got to break free, obviously, like what we talked about, forget submitting invoices and billing by the hour. That is a zero-sum game. You only have so many hours in a day. You will cap your income, and usually it's around 60 to 75,000. You put in a ton of hours, maybe 90,000, and you're exhausted. So you have no time to scale, which
Yeah.
is you need time to build things out to scale. So we want to focus on high ticket, whether that's 5,000, 10, 50. I've got clients who charge six figures for what they do. Focus on that so that you're making a lot more money per client. So that's first. And then the other thing is, people might say, well, where do I find these people? Because maybe you're billing by the hour and you're attracting broke people who could never pay you $10,000. So you're
Yeah.
like, how do I find them? And that's when the ocean to pond strategy really comes into play. The last thing we want to do is try to be everything to everyone, because when you're everything to everyone, you're no one thing to the one person that you want to serve. And
Ooh.
so rather than trying to capture everyone's attention, your goal should be to eliminate, repel anyone who is not your ideal clients through your messaging. So that's key number one. Number two, you need to make sure that your network is highly relevant, highly curated. So what people do is typically they go to Facebook or they go to LinkedIn, they post 10 times a day. They add anybody who's a friend. It doesn't matter if they're a plumber in Boise and a web developer in Pakistan. It doesn't matter. They just add this huge amount of people to their network, people that will never buy their services. Because unless you market to web developers in Pakistan or to plumbers, they don't belong in your network. So instead of having this big pool and trying to get to as many followers as possible, be very selective. And what you want to do is curate a highly relevant audience of your ideal clients. And then you want to take all of those people and you want to bring them into your proverbial pond. So you're not just out in the ocean of LinkedIn and Facebook posting and hoping somebody picks up something and maybe they're the right person and maybe they have the problem and maybe they have the money to buy, and your chances of selling become very small. But you take those relevant people, you pull them into your pond and you start to nurture them. You know they're your ideal clients and you can start to feed them content. You can start to build the relationship equity that's necessary. You essentially become the big fish in the little pond. And what I want people to understand is, if this concept sounds foreign to you, just remember this: 100 people paying you $10,000 is $1 million business. That's only 100 people. I mean, 50 people, you could just do the math, 50 people paying you $20,000 is $1 million business. So
Wow.
it doesn't take a lot when you have a high ticket model. And I know we're going to get into this when we talk about the myth of the ascension model. And you have a curated audience for those people who get it, who hear you, who you identify, they've got the messaging right, your positioning's right. Like, you can solve their problem and they like you. You don't need a huge network to do that. You just need the right people in your network.
Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful. Well, we're going to take just a short break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the myth of ascension. And I am really excited about that, because I know there's so many people that we're just going to do some myth busting, and it's going to be some aha moments for them. So we'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Sales Mastery. I'm here with Jessica Yarbrough. And am I pronouncing that right? Yes, Jessica
Yes.
Yarbrough? Good. And she is the expert on how to get high value clients. And we're going to do a little myth busting right now. So Jessica, let's talk about the myth of ascension when it comes to getting high value clients.
Absolutely. And, we are bombarded by messages from course creators and internet marketers encouraging us to go the route of selling little bits of products and services. And eventually one day we're going to push them to the top and sell them something really high ticket. But here's the problem. And you've probably seen this. You've probably seen someone says, hey, first sell a $7 ebook or $27 ebook. And then we're going to push them to a $97 workshop. And then we're going to push them to a $997 course. And then maybe one day we'll get to push them to make some real money in a $5,000 coaching program, for example. But the problem with that is every layer up, people drop off. So the likelihood of somebody who buys that $7 ebook ascending to your $5,000 coaching program, the one that can actually pay your bills and keep the lights on, pay your mortgage or rent, is actually only 10%. So it's quite low. So what do? We spend an enormous amount of time creating funnels, writing sophisticated copywriting, because you can't sell a 997 course off a phone. You're not calling someone. You've got to write copy that compels them to hand you $1,000 without ever even meeting you. So you've got copy, you've got funnels, you've got upsells and downsells and email sequences. You have to put this sophisticated digital marketing machine together. And it's very overwhelming. And so what happens is we're kind of sold on this idea of like, we're going to do this and then I'm going to turn it on and, I'm going to go retire on a beach. But the problem is unless you're someone like a big influencer and you don't have a following, the missing piece to all that is traffic. So now you got to push traffic, because you got to think about it. You probably have to have 100 people hit your page and it be a great sales page for them to buy that 1,000, for one person to buy. And if your sales page is stinky and you won't know whether that's the design, whether it's the copy, whether it's just a terrible offer, you won't know that until you spend money on running traffic. So then they say, okay, now I got to go spend $5,000 on Facebook ads to push a bunch of people to learn if this is even a good thing to sell or not. Mm-hmm. So it is a losing game for most entrepreneurs, unless you're a digital marketing expert, to try and monetize this way and to build this sheer amount of complexity into your business. It can take months. And the most important thing for many new entrepreneurs is cash flow. Yep. Instead of doing that, adding that complexity, get rid of it, start with a top-down approach, start with your high ticket. And then if you want, you can back build and add more complexity. And, my client, James, who I like to share, he's one of the ones who came to me, and he had been sold on a couple different things, including one of them being create your course, turn it on, boom, here comes the sales. Well, of course, he did that and didn't make any. So he was struggling trying to sell this course. And I told him, I said, James, you're brilliant. And he is. He had come from corporate, sales expert. I said, get out there and let's reposition you to market to these companies and rework their sales strategy. He went out, turned around, sold a $30,000 package in 1 week. Wow. 3 weeks later, he sold a $62,000 package. So he went from totally struggling, trying to push this, $497 course, which would, again, you got to sell a ton of them to hit his income goals, to doing $92,000 in sales in 4 weeks. And no funnels, no specific, no copywriting, no ads, nothing. That's the power of high ticket. That's the power of taking a top-down approach. And that's why the Ascension model, it's not that it doesn't work, but it's a myth that is very, very, it doesn't work for new entrepreneurs. It works for established people with a following or a big, big budget for ads.
So somebody like a Joe Vitale, who's got hundreds of thousands of followers, if not more than that, that works very well for him. Mm-hmm. But someone who is just starting in the business, whatever business that is, whether it's coaching, training, or product or service, those people really need to be looking at this. And one thing that came to mind is, if you start low, are you really going to reach those people that can pay the big bucks? I mean, exactly. Are they going to say it's not even worth my time? Is that going to be a problem with that kind of model?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, so one of my clients is a CEO of a company. I think when they started working with us, they were doing about 4 million. Very busy, bunch of employees. She never, bought a course. She saw that I could solve a problem and hired me. She is extremely busy. She doesn't have time to go through a course. And we were able to add $3 million in revenue in just 5 months. So really, really powerful. But what I want people to understand is your ideal clients, they don't want to take a course. They don't want to read your ebook. They want their problem solved, and they want it solved now. So rather than trying to market to the masses and make, build quote unquote passive income that's not really passive, because you still got to drive
Right.
something to it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then solve a bigger problem with a market that has more money but less time. There's your key right there. They have more money but less time. Time is the most valuable thing. They would rather pay someone a lot of money to solve their problem, whether it's done for you or consulting, than to try to invest more time like somebody who who's watching a course would do. The problem is people are trying to market and make it to people who don't have a lot of money, but they have a lot of time. Well, those people are the ones that are going to buy a course because
Yeah.
they don't have the money they have to. They're going to roll up their sleeves and they're going to take 3 months, 6 months, a year to figure it out on their own. Quit marketing to those people. Market to the people with a lot of money, urgent problems. You can come in there and help them solve them quickly. They value time.
And that really takes us way, way back to near the beginning of our interview when you were talking about you have to be able to own that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't own that, then it's going to be really hard to feel like you're on a peer-to-peer level with somebody who has that kind of money and has that kind of need. You're going to struggle with that. So
Mm-hmm.
do you have like one tip that maybe, besides signing up for one of your courses or signing up to work with you? I know you have a free masterclass. I'll let you talk about that here in a second. But is there something that somebody can start doing now that's like, I am so tired of working my tail off and getting pennies on the dollar? What is something I could do right now to change my life?
Well, number one thing you can do is restructure your packages to be high ticket and build in a lot of value so that it supports the price tag. And then this is the big secret I tell all my clients, when it comes to their mindset work and, how do I charge more? How do I own it? Look, you can do hypnotherapy, you can do NLP, you can write affirmations, you can journal every day. But the fastest way to prove to your subconscious mind that you are worthy is to just sell it. You just go out there and sell it. And once you sell it one time, your mind's like, oh my gosh, okay, I did it. That was actually a lot easier. Man, I suffered for a decade for no reason. It's really that simple. It's you having the courage to put it together and get on the calls and pitch it. And you might not sell it the first time, and that's okay, but you will sell it. And that is more powerful than any of the inner work. As much as I am a fan of mindset work and all those cool tools, prove to your subconscious mind, create a new reference point of what's possible, and you only go up from there.
Oh, well, I can think of so many people who will benefit from hearing just that. We get scared, so we don't do the calling or we don't do what we need to. And it really is. The proof is in the pudding. Get out there and do it. Now, I know you have a master class that is free. And so how can people we will write down here, there should be right below where we're talking, we will have the link for you, and it will also be in the show notes. But tell us a little bit about masterclass and how they can sign up for it.
Awesome. Yeah. So follow the link. It is actually a free masterclass on how to easily close high paying clients over the phone. So if you're curious, like, how do I even do this? Then download the masterclass. It's pitch free. There's an invitation for a call if you want to learn more. But I break down a 5-step process that has been used to generate millions of dollars of high ticket sales over the phone.
And as we close this out, how has this impacted that beautiful little girl that you call my daughter?
Oh, Deja is an incredible being of light. She is confident. She has never met a stranger. She's a total extrovert. She loves to travel. She has no fear. I'm sure she's going to grow up into an amazing powerhouse, force to be reckoned with woman.
Well, I'm sure that she's taken a lot of that from a mom who has the very same qualities.
Thank you.
Jessica, thank you so much for joining me on Sales Mastery. And I highly recommend, if you want to change your life, if you're tired of working for, trading time for money, get onto that master class, see how you can change your life. And then once you get that restructure done, go out there and start selling. Again, thank you for joining me on Sales Mastery. It's been a delight to have Jessica with me. And go ahead, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to this podcast. We'd love to have you following us. Make it a great day and happy selling.